Hey everyone, we are back for another week of Wellness Wednesdays. This week we're going to go ahead and debrief the Netflix series All American, which has quickly become one of my favorite shows, so I'm extremely excited. All American, for those of you who haven't checked out the show, is about a young boy who attends Crenshaw High School and he transfers to Beverly Hills High School in order to play football. In the midst of his transfer, he develops some friendships, some relationships, all while trying to maintain his friendships and family relationships at home. So we've just picked out a few relationships that we think are interesting. So we're going to be focusing on Layla and Asher's relationship, Spencer and Layla, and Patience and Coop. And this is solely based on season 1 because we know that that's where the relationships began and we want to analyze them from the beginning on forward. So here are a few questions. Alrighty, so question number 1 is, how is Asher and Layla's relationship unhealthy? So we want to focus on them as individuals first before we group them into a relationship. Asher is dealing with a lot of pressure at home. His family has just lost all their money, every single drop of money, and so he is struggling in how to navigate that when he goes to an extremely wealthy school and is surrounded by wealthy friends. He doesn't know how to come forward with the fact that his family has just lost their money, so he doesn't share that with Layla. Because of the loss of their financial status, his mother decides to leave their family and separate from his father. So not only is he dealing with that, he's dealing with the fact that he no longer has a mother in his household. So he has a lot to deal with. His father also pressures him heavily about football and reviews his football performance constantly. And then we have Layla, who kind of wears this mask every day that everything is perfect in her world. She is kind of the it girl on campus. She's on the ASB committee. She's extremely well liked. So as she carries that on through the show, she is grieving the loss of her mother. She does so quietly and internally, which is okay because she gets to decide how she wants to process her emotions and her grieving. But when we put Asher and Layla together, it becomes unhealthy because they're both dealing with their own emotional stressors and not communicating them to each other. So they're dismissing the fact that they both have a lot of emotional healing to do in different ways, but neither of them know it. And so when we don't tend to our own emotional stressors, that can put a strain on the relationship. For example, Asher has this huge secret that his family has lost their money. He is able to open up to Layla about it, and Layla shares, hey, I think it's best and I think our friends will support you if you share that with them. He doesn't think so, so he begs and pressures Layla into going along with his lie. That puts Layla in a really uncomfortable position and then puts a strain on their relationship. And it does become an issue later on in the show, and it leads to their breakup. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, sorry. So not tending to our own emotional needs can damage the relationship. Alrighty, so question number 2 is, when Asher and Layla break up, Spencer and Layla decide to date shortly after. And by shortly, I mean pretty immediately. And so our question is, did Layla have the appropriate time to heal and or recover from her relationship with Asher? After any relationship, no matter how it ended, we could all benefit from processing our feelings. It's a relationship that at one point we cared deeply about and we were invested in. And so we're also grieving the relationship. And so if we decide to get into a new relationship fairly quickly, we're not able to identify the things that we want from the potential new partner, or work on ourselves emotionally, self-identify what is important to us or what we need in that moment. And so it can really affect the way that we act in our new relationship. If we didn't focus on the things that we needed from our last relationship, we could be seeking those things in our new relationship. And so it's kind of a domino effect. It's really important that we get that time to grieve, to process, to identify the things that we need. And so oftentimes we get mixed messages from the media and our friends that the quickest way to get over someone is to be with someone new. And that is just a recipe for disaster, because we don't get that time to focus, to process. And so we feel like Layla, on top of her breakup, was also dealing with a lot of other emotional stress, and she doesn't get to focus on herself completely because now she has Spencer as her partner, and has to give of her emotional time to Spencer. And so that manifests later in the show, and I won't ruin it for you all, but it does end up having a pretty negative effect on their relationship. Alrighty, so third and final question is, when we look at Patience and Coops' relationship, what healthy qualities stand out? And so I think initially there is some rockiness to this relationship. There was some lying on Coops' end. However, as we go through the show, we understand that Coop is struggling with her identity. There's a lot of self-doubt. Her mother is not supportive of who she is, and so she is trying to figure out some things on her own. And she comes to a point where she says, I don't want to do this on my own. And she tells Patience, hey, the reason that I've been sneaking around and doing things on my own or not wanting to be in public is because I'm struggling, and I don't want to do that by myself. So can you help me? And so because she's able to communicate that and be vulnerable with Patience, their relationship tends to move forward in a positive and healthy way. They were able to have that communication and understand each other, be on the same page. And so when we're able to communicate with our partner how we're feeling, our relationship can move forward. It can grow from those difficult conversations. And even though they're difficult, they bring us closer together.
So I'm just going to do a small recap on what Elise talked about, but more emphasis on the healthy relationship qualities. So she really talked about Patience and Coop having that open communication with each other, and communication is really important and is necessary in a healthy relationship. Along with that quality goes trust, honesty, respect. At House of Ruth, we say if there is no respect, there shouldn't be a relationship. Consent is key, and it comes along with everything, not just with sex. So consent has to be active, continuous, and enthusiastic. There also has to be equality. So in a healthy relationship, there is no person in the relationship that holds all the power and control. The power and control is equal between the two partners. Thank you again for joining us for this week's Wellness Wednesday. We're really excited to be discussing these topics with you all. Please feel free to vote, submit anything that you would like for us to discuss for next week's topic.